understand Bitcoin so you can have more time back into your life. We give the few people that haven't seen the first episode, and for the people that are unaware of you, give them some background of who you are and why you're excited about Bitcoin.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Daz B. I am co-founder of Looking Glass Education and co-author of a book on Bitcoin, B is for Bitcoin. But by day, I'm a Sparky by trade, which is Australian for electrician and electrical engineer. So sort of come at Bitcoin from an investment lens. Landed on Bitcoin around circa 2020, was pretty prime for the message. So fell down the rabbit hole pretty quickly. And fast forward a couple of years and it played just a massive role in my life, my family's life, and opened up a whole heap of opportunities, which I'm sure part of which we'll get into tonight around what we're doing this year, which is traveling around Australia. I am Australian, a funny accent if you couldn't tell. We've taken the opportunity to pull the kids out of school for the year and travel this great big country of ours in our caravan. So.
Yeah, I think I don't know, you mentioned it in the last time. It was inspired by Daniel Prince, I think.
Yeah, it sure was. And I challenge anyone to go and read his book, Choose Life, and not get majorly orange pilled on that concept of choosing life, right? and opting out of the school system and investigating all those things like traveling full time with your family is just an incredible opportunity, and we're just enjoying every minute of it, to be honest with you. We're about 6 months into that journey now, and last time we spoke, we were just getting in the final preparations to hit the road. So we were still based in Fiat land then, and now we're right in amongst. So we're about 6 months into our trip.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like this is kind of, we talk a lot about like what Bitcoin is and where Bitcoin is going, and I'm sure we also talk a lot about like all the things that going on that you can do with borrow against the Bitcoin, what's going on with treasury companies and all those things. But that's the real Bitcoin thing that you can do with Bitcoin. Like take your family, travel around with them. There's no borders. I don't know like where you all travel around and where you're going, but this is the main thing you want to do with Bitcoin. You don't want to spend more time in Bitcoin. You kind of want to get Bitcoin, understand Bitcoin so you can have more time back into your life and with your family. So I love that. And I think that's that's the most Bitcoin podcast we can do with someone that's actually on the road and spending time with the family.
Yeah, I think above everything, and I say this quite often, I think the thing I love the most about Bitcoin is just it gives you optionality. Like we've gone only in a number of years from a family that lives paycheck to paycheck to a family that has options, and we're by no stretch of the imagination, whales. But it has given us options. It's been able to provide a nest egg for our family, and it's been able to it's enabled us to sit back and objectively look at what matters to us in life, and give us some options to be able to say, well, the fiat life, given someone 60 hours a week of my time, is no longer serving me. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without Bitcoin.
Love that. And so you started the journey, I think in February, you said, traveling around. Is it only Australia? I mean, only Australia. Australia is huge, but you're traveling around Australia. And this for now set a year. So you're kind of halfway through this journey. What's kind of like your journey has been so far? And then what kind of have you learned from that?
Yeah, like you say, Australia's huge. And we've been on the road now 6 months and we've barely seen half of it. And there's plenty we've missed in between. But essentially, the idea was to take around about a year. So it'll be just a little bit short in the end. We're planning on heading back home in December, but we left in February and we'll be back home where we're based in Far North Queensland back in December. But it's just been an incredible opportunity. So we've basically gone from where I live in Far North Queensland, which is the east coast of Australia, up the top, and we've hugged the east coast. We've gone over to Tasmania, come back, and we've basically hugged the coast. We like surf and sand and sunshine. We've gone over to Western Australia, over to their capital over there, Perth, and then we've basically taken a similar route and gone through a little bit more of a country route on the way back through. We've been to the snow. We're from a hot tropical climate I've seen snow 3 times in my life, so it was a great opportunity to take the kids, and we went and played around in the snow in country Victoria for a while, and now we're sort of on the about the midway point back on the east coast and getting back to warmer weather. It's winter here for us. Winter's still quite a nice time of year anywhere in Australia, but we're starting to head back to the warmer weather because we've been cold. We're from a tropical climate, and we've been feeling it. But yeah, it's just been 6 months on the road. We'll end up traveling until around mid-December, and then I'll take up some Fiat um, jobs again, but we'll be based out of what's called the Sunshine Coast, which is sort of southeast pocket of Queensland, before we make the trek back north towards the end of the year.
Has this trip or like this experience in any way, shape, or form influenced your thinking of Bitcoin at all?
Hasn't necessarily influenced my thinking of Bitcoin. It's definitely influenced my thinking of fiat, in terms of really starting to look now around what the future looks like for us as a family. So very much keen. My wife did work somewhat prior to us leaving. I think we won't bother going back to that life for her. She's a fantastic mother, and I think this is probably one of the most deplorable things of a fiat system is this attack on motherhood. Motherhood should be celebrated. It's a hard job. It's often a thankless job, and she's phenomenal at it. And our kids are better off for having her around in more of a full time capacity. So that's definitely something that we'll be looking at when we get back. Is potentially she won't return to work, and then it's also just making us look like at our fiat lives and saying, well, what does it look like for us in terms of what do we need? What's our base costs? All that sort of thing is starting to weigh up. There's obviously a lot of really interesting developments in the lending space and everything happening in and around Bitcoin now. And I think, that'll just allow us to approach that um, the intertwine with the fiat lifestyle a little bit differently. So, I'll never retire. I'm not the retirement kind of guy. I think I'd go stir crazy if I retired, but it does allow us to then direct our energies toward things that are serving us. What may interest us, right? So it's not that I have to go stamp the time card in from a 9 to 5 job anymore. I may be able to take my foot off the throttle a little bit and enjoy a bit more of a work-life balance and start leaning into some more of that family stuff. And again, it's just like Bitcoin's enabled that for us. Like it's a phenomenal asset. It's money. It's the best store of energy, of time and energy that we've ever faced as a human race. And now, all us Bitcoiners are starting. If you've been around, and it only takes a cycle, it's really quite mind blowing, really, is the difference between you doing exactly what you want with your life is only one cycle. It's only ever one cycle away. Might not be this cycle, but within the next cycle, you're probably, going to be in a position to be able to do whatever it is the hell you want to do in life.
I love that. You said you're not the retire kind of a guy. What do you mean by that?
Look, I'll always hustle. I've had a job ever since I was a kid, so um, I think my first job was 9 or 10 years old. Like I've always loved having money and having the things that money buys, right? So I'll never retire and do nothing. It'll just be, whether it's more into my music. So, I do gigs part time as just part of my other, fiat life, but it's something I enjoy doing. And why not get paid something that you enjoy? So potentially, with Bitcoin having feathered the nest a little bit, more, I potentially don't have to go to the job that I'm enjoying less, and I can point my time and energies towards something that's serving me a little bit more.
For me, retirement is the art of getting paid for something that you love to do.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And Bitcoin's such an amazing space and there's so many opportunities in and around Bitcoin that you can make Bitcoin part of your life. And that's something that interests me in terms of, and I've got a pretty unique skill set in terms. We spoke a little bit about this on the last pod, is in and around the energy space and Bitcoin mining and what Bitcoin mining means for energy grids and energy markets. So that's probably somewhere I would point more of my energies towards when I don't have to worry about being out of job from, eight till five.
Yeah, you can probably easily start something in the mining space. There's a lot of ground to cover. It's I think sometimes we underestimate how early we are in this space. And with that, not only the thing that we always talk about, the price appreciation and how many more people that come into Bitcoin, but also how many more business models will be deployed within the Bitcoin ecosystem. And with Bitcoin being early, Bitcoin mining is also early, and all the mining companies, like all the things that you basically need with mining and energy. I think we haven't seen like a percent of what's possible. So it's probably smart if you know the potential of Bitcoin, you know Bitcoin, and you save your financial energy in Bitcoin. That you also see, okay, what can I do business wise, career wise, whatever your thing is in Bitcoin. If you have skill sets that might be valuable to the Bitcoin ecosystem, that's probably the exponential growth onto the exponential growth. So like Bitcoin itself has an exponential growth, but if you also are working into Bitcoin and saving into Bitcoin, that can really skyrocket your whole life and give you even more freedom that you might not even need.
Yeah, 100%. And the other avenue to that is also weaving Bitcoin into what it is that you do, So from starting a business, or if you already operate a business, I think a lot of us sometimes are guilty of, particularly Bitcoiners I speak to day to day, trying to get a job in Bitcoin, trying to get a job in Bitcoin. Like, what can I do in Bitcoin? But on the flip side of that is like, how can I interweave Bitcoin into what it is that I already do, and I think that's really the key because, you hone skill sets over years and years and years, and Bitcoin really does interweave with most aspects of society. Money is such a fundamental, um, core of how society works that, Bitcoin is money. So it just is second nature that Bitcoin can interweave into anything that you do, from day to day. And I think that's probably a key aspect as well.
100% agree. One other aspect that you mentioned is interesting. Is bringing the family unit back together, the fiat aspect of kind of making a family poor enough so both parents have to work, so that the kids are not at home anymore. And this is something I think is has probably really bad implications long term for society. I don't have any studies or proof or anything like that. That's just like a subjective feeling that I have, that if there's one parent at home, or maybe even like both, and really parenting the kids when they are in their crucial years, between like, I don't know, 0 and 15 years old, whatever, wherever you want to draw that line. I think it's a very important thing to do. And if you have a mother at home that is really good in at her job as a mother, and I think we also should acknowledge that like mothering is probably like one of the hardest jobs you can possibly do.
Amen.
This is something extremely important, but this is of course only possible if one salary can support uh, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, depending on how many kids you have, which is in a fiat world hard, especially if you save in fiat and not in Bitcoin. That's something those are like the indirect implications of sound money that I'm really hopeful for, that I'm really positive for. So I'm glad to see that we have Bitcoiners like you, where we actually see this like, oh yeah, he adopted Bitcoin, he travel around the world, and that he brings the family unit back together. And yeah, it actually makes the family better, it makes the lives better, and with that also the kids better, and with that the next generation better. I mean, that's the most low time preference things you can do.
100%. And, my partner in crime, Seb Bunny, co-author of the book and co-founder of Looking Glass Education, he's written a phenomenal book on just that subject called The Hidden Cost of Money. And I strongly encourage anybody who hasn't read it, go out and grab a copy. And it's very well evidenced and very well researched. Basically the family unit, right, and how money's basically eroded that over time when we operate on a fiat system. And one of the most probably impactful things around that is you just mentioned it before, is if your parents are spending so much time at work trying to just keep the roof over their head, and mainly, everybody in the Bitcoin space know that's due to inflation, right? And fiat currency, they print it out of thin air, makes it so much harder to get ahead. It's forced both parents into the workforce, so we spend so much time trying to make money, trying to keep money, um, that we then entrust our children to other people, typically daycares, before and after school care. Like, it's not just enough now that your kids are in school for 6, 7, and 8 hours a day. They're also in these before and after school programs, and we're starting to lose the connection between parents and children, and children are then turning towards their peers, and they're connecting these peer relationships with their peer groups and people who aren't their parents. And this is having a dramatic downstream impact on whole things, from mental health through to just the fundamental parent-child bond, through to adolescence. And, it could be argued that this is where we start to see some of this really worrisome trends in society, where kids don't even know what gender they are and stuff like that. And I don't want to get too political or dug down into those weeds necessarily, but really, when you start tearing all the layers back, money sits at the root of all these things. So when your money is corrupted and co-opted, and it's really hard to find value in the world, that's what, this is what we as Bitcoiners propose Bitcoin fixes. It's the main way that us as humans communicate value to each other. And when that's distorted, it has all these downstream effects. And one of the, the like we've just mentioned, family unit is such, it's been eroded since 1970. It's just been a downward slippery slope of the family unit getting pulled apart, more divorce rates going through the roof, mother and fathers, they're stressed out of their heads about money, they're working, but the jobs don't stop. The washing doesn't stop. The food doesn't stop. So you fall into other bad habits around eating poorly, and when mothers, I'm a shit mum. Openly and freely admit that I am a terrible mother. So without my partner, my kids would suffer. And if she has to go to work for 40, 50, 60 hours a week and then perform all those duties and not getting support by me because I'm actually crap at it, these are all the things that you trade off. And it's easy to understand where that family unit starts to break down when those defined roles are no longer supported.
It's crazy because when you go through the stress and you basically have the two parents working both, like, I don't know, 40, 50 hours jobs every week. And then you have the kids being basically at school and daycare. So they're also, I don't know, 40 hours a week away from the parents. Then you have the situations where you don't have a family anymore. You have a living situation. You have a living arrangement where you kind of sleep in the same house, but the first 5 days of the week, you don't even see each other that much. And then it's just like Saturday, Sunday quickly. And you probably are also stressed out and tired that you don't do a lot. So it's really interesting seeing this whole family thing, because without being together as a family, are you even a family then? Like, you're just in a living arrangement, weirdly. Like, you don't see each other that much. And yeah, like, and I don't want to be careful, because there might be people listening and seeing like, hey, like, I cannot get out of this now. Like, and it can be a frustrating thing, recognizing that, like, oh, it would be great if the mother stays at home, but like, we cannot afford that. And I also sometimes get the comments of saying like, oh, hey, Bitcoin is great, but like, I have an income problem and I cannot get more money. And like, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. And I'm always very upfront with that. If you have not enough to save, like, Bitcoin will not help you in that regard. But overall, I think if we fix the money long term, those problems will slowly go away. And it's not just about us, it's also about the future generations. It's about, okay, how are the kids from our kids living up, and do they have sound money, and do they have other opportunities? So I try to look at it selflessly and say like, okay, even if my situation right now is not that good, I mean, my personal situation is really good with the Bitcoin podcast. I'm kind of living the dream, but it's like, okay, what can we do to make that whole thing on average better? Like not just like for one person. And I think, as you said, this like being in Bitcoin for 1 or 2 cycles, that can work magic. If you saved Bitcoin the last 2 cycles, even let's say $50 a week, or $50, I don't know, every second week, the last 8 years. I cannot do the math right now in my head. Maybe if you speak, I will quickly put it in some calculators. But I can imagine that is a whole lot of Bitcoin if you
It'll be
did that for
meaningful.
like 2 cycles. Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Like, I mean, you can. What I'm probably more grateful is more people are waking up to the fact that we're on this hamster wheel. And whether you get Bitcoin now or like you say, these people that are in these situations, because they absolutely exist. I was in that situation myself, living sort of pay to pay, not knowing where the next spare bit of income was, and it's really hard to try and put meaningful change in place when you feel like you're on that hamster wheel, when you don't know there's an alternative solution, when you don't know there's a path, when you don't know there's light at the end of that tunnel. And I think that's what Bitcoin does, is give us that light. And I'm hoping that, over this next sort of cycle, more and more people start to wake up that they are on that hamster wheel and that there is an alternative solution. And I think that's only getting more reinforced by the nation state type of adoption. The political movement in the United States is definitely helping get that message out, as well as, the more of the traditional finance sectors are starting to wake up, starting to talk about it. That the BlackRocks of the world, etc., giving more education in around what this asset is. And I think, um, you know yourself, Robin, probably you've made meaningful change to your own life once you sort of got that message. You did make the sacrifices. If you're on that, you know, poor situation where you can't save money, putting $10 a week away does nothing. But if you can all of a sudden put that $10 away and it makes meaningful change to your life over 4 or 8 cycles, and it's evidenced and you can see that light at the end of the tunnel, then all of a sudden you'll make that change to find the extra $10. That $10 then becomes $20. And you start to really objectively look at how you're living your life and doing what Grandma told us to do. Keep it lean and safe. When we're operating this fiat lifestyle, when we know $10 a week put in the bank's not going to do anything, it's only going to lose purchasing power, it's really easy to not make the sacrifices and just keep consuming.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.